Have you ever felt like you're just constantly fighting battles, at work, online, maybe even just inside your own head? Well, what if I told you the key to winning wasn't about more aggression, but a totally different way of thinking? Today, we're going to dive into how the ancient principles of military strategy, especially as explored by author Robert Greene, are not about violence at all. They're actually this powerful and deeply misunderstood philosophy for navigating our crazy modern lives. Let's get into this hidden art of war. Okay, right off the bat, we have to get one thing straight. When we talk about the art of war, we are not talking about bloodshed. The master strategist Sun Tzu himself said it's the art of winning with the least amount of conflict possible. It's about resolving things in a sane, rational way, not escalating them. So the first and most important step for us is to completely reframe what strategy even means. It's not a weapon for aggression, it's a mindset for clarity. Now, what's really fascinating is that for centuries, military strategy wasn't just some boring subject you'd study. No, it was the secret, jealously guarded body of knowledge. It was hoarded by kings, rulers, and their top generals. It was seen as the ultimate practical philosophy, the bridge that takes an idea and actually makes it a reality. So why all the secrecy? Well, it was a power issue, pure and simple. This kind of knowledge teaches you how to turn a negative situation positive. It shows you how to spot an opponent's psychological weaknesses and use them to your advantage. And in the hands of the general population, that kind of power could be, well, let's just say, revolutionary. And look, here's a perfect example. For centuries, this stuff was kept under lock and key. But then, in this absolutely stunning turn of history in 1801, slaves in Haiti got their hands on military manuals. And they did the impossible. They defeated Napoleon's army, one of the most powerful forces on the planet. This knowledge gave them a way to rise above the chaos and take control. And even today, this information is mostly kept in specialized military schools, kind of separated from the rest of us by this cultural idea that war is a dirty word, that it doesn't belong in our polite everyday lives. But here's the crazy paradox. While our culture might tell us not to apply war strategy to daily life, we are surrounded by more conflict and competition than ever before. We're all fighting battles, whether we like to admit it or not. I mean, just think about it. We have business wars, culture wars, the endless wars on the internet. We navigate these intense political battles, and of course, the quiet guerrilla warfare of office politics. The modern world is a battlefield, and most of us are walking onto it completely unprepared. And this leads us to a state that Robert Greene calls tactical hell. This is that place where you're just constantly putting out fires, right? You're reacting to the latest email, the latest crisis, the latest comment on social media. Sound familiar? You have zero perspective, no long-term vision. You're just reacting. And once you're trapped in tactical hell, it is incredibly hard to escape. So how do you break out? The solution is to transform your mind. You see, strategy isn't a formula you memorize. It's a philosophy, a totally different way of seeing the world. And there is no better example of this than Japan's greatest samurai, Miyamoto Musashi. So in his first big duel against the famous Yoshioka clan, everyone knew Musashi's signature move was to arrive late to get in his opponent's head. But this time, he knew they'd expect that, so they'd probably plan an ambush. So what did he do? He arrived early, hid himself, and literally watched them set their own trap. He just completely flipped their expectations on their head and defeated 10 men at once. Next up, he had to face this warrior who used a bizarre and supposedly unbeatable weapon. It was a sickle attached to a chain and a steel ball. Nobody knew how to counter it. Musashi's solution? He just showed up with two swords, a fighting style no one had ever even seen before. He broke his opponent's predictable pattern by creating a completely new one on the spot. And then there's his most famous duel. He's up against Japan's greatest swordsman, a guy who had this impossibly long, beautiful sword. Musashi shows up late, looking like a total mess, and he's carrying a large wooden oar he'd carved on the boat ride over. He didn't win with a better weapon. He won with pure psychological warfare. So you see the difference here, right? It's so crucial. Musashi's opponents had a tactical mind. They depended on some physical advantage, a special weapon, a technique they'd practiced 1,000 times. They were always just fighting the last war over and over. But Musashi, he had a strategic mind. He relied on pure creativity in the moment, and he adapted his approach to the unique weakness of each opponent. He never, ever did the same thing twice.
This ability to adapt and see the bigger picture, that's the heart of what's known as grand strategy. And, the ancient Greeks had a perfect metaphor for this, embodied by their two gods of war, the aggressive, impulsive Ares and the wise, intelligent Athena.
Think of Ares as our animal nature. He's all emotion, all reaction. He loves the violence of it all and just rushes headfirst into whatever fight is right in front of him. But Athena, she's different. She's our rational consciousness. She actually hates war, but she loves to win. So she steps back. She sees the entire battlefield, the past, the present, and the future. She is calm, fluid, and intelligent. And in any conflict, we have a choice. Are we going to be Ares, or are we going to be Athena? So how do we channel that inner Athena? Well, it's a process. First, you have to mentally step back from the heat of the moment. Detach from the anger, the impatience, all of it. Second, you've got to force yourself to see the bigger picture, to look way farther into the future. Third, and this one is so important, you must try to understand the conflict through your opponent's eyes. And only from there, with that complete view, can you craft a fluid campaign, a long-term plan, not just the single reactive move. Alexander the Great is the icon of this. I mean, he faced the entire Persian Empire with an army of 40,000 against their 750,000. The odds were impossible. But instead of just rushing into a huge battle, he spent years winning over cities politically and culturally. By the time he actually fought the Persians in a major battle, he'd already absorbed their empire from within. Now, that is grand strategy. And this brings us to what might be the most powerful idea in all of strategic thinking. The outcome of any conflict is determined long before the first move is ever made. It all happens in the preparation, inside your own mind.
The real opponent you're facing is never the person across the table. It's your own emotional, reactive nature, your inner Ares. It's your tendency to fight the last war, to rely on old tricks instead of seeing what's actually right in front of you. You have to win that internal battle first.
At the end of the day, it all comes down to this simple, profound truth. Every battle is won or lost before it is ever fought. The quality of your thinking, your calmness, your ability to see the whole picture, that's what decides the outcome. By the time the actual confrontation happens, the result has, in so many ways, already been sealed by the work you did beforehand. Napoleon even had a formula for this. He said, an army with high morale, which is a purely mental and emotional state, is 3 times more powerful than an army without it. The mental always triumphs over the purely physical. So the next time you find yourself in a conflict, a tough negotiation, any kind of struggle, just remember the choice you have. The real question isn't, what should I do? It's, who should I be? Will you be Ares, just rushing in with emotion? Or will you be Athena, stepping back, seeing the whole board, and winning the war long before the battle even begins? The choice, as always, is yours.